Sundar Pichai's mother, Lakshmi Pichai, was a woman of simplicity. She lived in Chennai, India, in the same neighborhood where she had spent most of her life. Her home was not a luxurious mansion, but a modest house filled with memories, warmth, and the fragrance of South Indian filter coffee. She had no interest in fame or riches, even though her son was one of the most powerful people in the world, the CEO of Google. People around her would sometimes ask, "Aren't you Sundar Pichai's mother?" And she would simply smile and nod, saying, "Yes, he is my son, but I am just his mother." She didn't wear expensive jewelry or designer clothes. Most days she was seen in cotton saris, usually white or pastel in color, neatly pressed and pinned in place. Her hair was always tied back into a bun, and she wore simple gold earrings, gifts from her husband many years ago. She preferred walking to the nearby temple or the vegetable market rather than sending someone else to do it for her. Her life was full of routines that gave her peace. Despite her simplicity, Lakshmi had a strong mind and a proud heart. She had worked as a stenographer many years ago and had helped her husband raise their children with discipline and love. She remembered the days when money was tight and every rupee had to be carefully planned. There were no smartphones, no internet, and definitely no overseas trips. But there was a strong bond in the family. Books were more important than toys. Education was more valuable than expensive clothes. Sundar, even as a child, was always curious and thoughtful. He would spend hours reading, taking apart radios, and asking endless questions. Lakshmi would smile when she remembered how he once asked her why the fan made noise when it turned. He was different from other children, quiet, observant, and always respectful. She would gently push him toward studies, reminding him that knowledge would open doors that money couldn't. Years passed. Sundar went to IIT Kharagpur, then Stanford, and then began his journey in the world of technology. He rose quickly in the world of Silicon Valley, but every time he called his mother, he was still the same Sundar. He would ask, "Amma, did you eat? Did the mango tree bloom this year? How's Appa's health?" The world knew him as a genius, a tech leader, a CEO. But for Lakshmi, he was still her boy who needed to be reminded to drink warm water for his throat. One day, Lakshmi got a call from her younger sister in Mumbai. It had been a long time since they had met. Her sister was planning a small family get-together and insisted that Lakshmi must come. Lakshmi hesitated at first. Traveling made her tired, and she didn't like being the center of attention. But her sister's voice was full of excitement, and Lakshmi finally agreed. She packed a small bag with a few saris, her medicines, and a carefully wrapped box of homemade sweets. Before leaving, she thought, "Maybe I should take a gift for my sister. Something nice. Something that will last." She had heard about a fancy mall in Mumbai where rich people shopped. A place filled with beautiful clothes, bags, and perfumes. She decided that once she reached Mumbai, she would go there and look for a gift. She wasn't looking for anything too expensive, just something special. The journey to Mumbai was smooth. Her sister welcomed her with open arms, and the house was filled with laughter and memories. One afternoon, when everyone else was resting, Lakshmi quietly told her sister, "I want to go to that big mall. I want to buy you a gift." Her sister offered to come along, but Lakshmi said, "No need, I'll go by myself. I just want to look around." Wearing a soft blue cotton saree and carrying a small leather purse, Lakshmi stepped into the Grand Mall. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. Bright lights, tall glass windows, and shiny marble floors made everything look like a movie set. People were walking around dressed in designer clothes, clicking selfies, and sipping coffee in fancy cups. Lakshmi walked slowly, taking it all in. She spotted a luxury boutique at the corner. The store looked elegant. Inside there were handbags neatly displayed on glass shelves, glowing under soft lights. She had seen such bags in magazines and on TV but had never touched one before. Her heart beat a little faster, as she pushed open the glass door. The store was quiet. A soft music played in the background. Two young salespeople stood behind the counter. They looked up as Lakshmi entered, then quickly looked away. One of them, a girl with a sharp haircut and heavy makeup, whispered something to her colleague and giggled. Lakshmi pretended not to notice. She walked up to one of the shelves and gently touched a small black handbag. It felt smooth, like silk. She turned around and said softly, "Excuse me, could you tell me the price of this?" The salesgirl didn't move. She looked Lakshmi up and down, from her simple sari to her flat sandals, and replied coldly, "That's a premium item, ma'am. Very expensive." Lakshmi nodded and said, "Yes, but I would like to know the price." The girl shrugged and said, "It's not in your budget. Maybe you can check the other section," and pointed toward a shelf near the door where cheaper items were kept. Her tone was sharp, almost rude. Lakshmi stood there for a moment, feeling a mix of surprise and sadness. She wasn't angry, just hurt. She didn't want a discount or special treatment. She just wanted to buy a gift for her sister. But the girl had judged her based on her clothes and the way she spoke. She didn't know who Lakshmi was, and perhaps she didn't care. Lakshmi smiled politely and said, "Thank you," before quietly walking out of the store. She didn't look back. Outside the store, she stood for a while, watching the crowd. People were rushing, clicking photos, showing off shopping bags. But inside, she felt very still. She didn't tell her sister anything about what happened. That evening, after dinner, she had a video call with Sundar. He was in California wearing his usual gray t-shirt, sitting in his home office with books and files behind him. His face lit up when he saw her. "Amma, how are you? How's Mumbai?" "Did you eat well?" he asked with a wide smile. Lakshmi laughed softly and said, Yes, everything is fine. I went to a big mall today." Sundar raised his eyebrows. "You went shopping?" Lakshmi told him what had happened at the store, not dramatically, not emotionally, just as a story. She didn't complain about the salesgirl. She didn't ask him to do anything. She said, "I think she thought I was in the wrong place. It's all right. I didn't need that bag anyway." Sundar didn't say much. He just listened. His smile faded, and his eyes became serious. He said softly, "You didn't deserve that, Amma." She waved her hand and said, "It's nothing. People look at clothes and make decisions. That's the world." They talked a little more about family, health, and news from Chennai. Then she said goodbye, as always, with a blessing. "Take care of your health. Don't skip meals." After the call ended, Sundar sat in silence for a while. The story kept playing in his head. Not because his mother had been disrespected, but because it reminded him of something he believed deeply. No one should be judged by how they look or what they wear. He thought of all the times his mother had walked miles to save bus fare, or how she stayed up late sewing his school uniform, buttons back on. She had always been a woman of dignity and quiet strength. She didn't need luxury to feel important, but she deserved to be treated with respect. What happened at that store would not be ignored. Not because Sundar was a billionaire, but because his mother had been made to feel small, and that was something he could not allow. Not for her, not for anyone. Lakshmi Pichai had always been a calm and patient woman. Her heart was gentle, but she carried a quiet strength that came from years of experience and understanding the world around her. The next day, after the incident at the luxury store, she felt a strange mix of emotions. There was a little sadness, yes, but mostly she felt a sense of acceptance. She told herself that the world was like this sometimes. People judged others too quickly, often without knowing the real story behind a face or a dress. Still, she could not forget the look on the saleswoman's face when she asked to see the handbag. It was not just a simple refusal, it felt like a rejection. Lakshmi remembered how the saleswoman's eyes glanced away, her lips tight as if she was uncomfortable dealing with someone like Lakshmi. This was a world that seemed to belong only to a certain type of people: rich, fashionable, confident. Lakshmi was none of those things. She was simply a mother who wanted to buy a gift for her sister. Lakshmi spent the morning quietly at her sister's home in Mumbai. The air was warm and humid, and the sound of traffic and people filled the streets outside. Her sister, a lively woman with a quick laugh and kind eyes, noticed her mood. "Amma, what happened at the mall? You seem different today," she asked gently. Lakshmi smiled faintly and said, "Nothing much, just a little tired. The mall is big and noisy, not like our calm Chennai." Her sister was curious but did not press her. Lakshmi did not want to make a fuss over something she considered small, yet inside her heart she knew it was more than that. It was about respect. It was about how a person should be treated when they walk into a store, no matter who they are or how they look. That afternoon, Lakshmi decided to visit a local temple nearby. The temple was a place she had visited many times before. It was peaceful, with tall pillars and carved statues of gods and goddesses. The sound of bells and soft chants filled the air. Lakshmi closed her eyes and prayed quietly. She prayed not just for her family, but for kindness in the world. She wished that people would see beyond the clothes someone wore, beyond the money they had in their pockets. As she walked back home, Lakshmi thought about her son, Sundar. She was proud of him, but also protective. Sundar was a man who changed the world with technology, but he was still humble, just like her. She remembered when Sundar was a boy, how he would come home with stories about school, his friends, and his dreams of studying abroad. Those dreams had come true, but they had not changed the man he was, and they had not changed Lakshmi either. In the evening, Lakshmi sat down by the window and wrote a letter. Not a long letter, but a few lines to her sister, telling her about the mall and how sometimes people's actions could hurt more than words. She wrote about how she wished people would remember to be kind. She folded the letter carefully and handed it to her sister when she saw her the next day. The next morning, Lakshmi got ready to visit the luxury store again. This time, she was not alone. Her sister insisted on coming with her. Lakshmi agreed, but only if they kept things quiet. She did not want to cause trouble. She wanted to understand why the salespeople had acted the way they did. As they walked into the store, the atmosphere felt the same. Bright lights, soft music, and the smell of expensive perfumes. But Lakshmi felt different now. She was calm and collected. The salespeople glanced at them again, but this time Lakshmi's sister was by her side. She wore simple but neat clothes and carried herself with confidence. Lakshmi asked politely to see the handbags again. This time, a middle-aged man came forward, the store manager. He smiled warmly and said, "How can I help you today?" Lakshmi explained that she was looking for a gift for her sister. The manager listened carefully and showed them a few bags. Lakshmi touched a bag, feeling the soft leather under her fingers. She did not ask for a price. She only wanted to know which one her sister would like. After a while, Lakshmi chose a bag, a simple, elegant design in dark brown leather. It was not the most expensive one, but it was beautiful and sturdy. She was ready to pay when the manager asked, "May I ask your name, ma'am?" Lakshmi hesitated for a moment. She knew that if she said who she was, things would change. But she also wanted the manager to see that she was not just any customer. She was the mother of Sundar Pichai. "I am Lakshmi Pichai," she said softly. The manager's eyes widened in surprise. He bowed his head slightly and said, "It is an honor to have you here, Mrs. Pichai. Please accept our apologies for any discomfort you faced earlier." Lakshmi smiled and said, "Thank you. I do not want apologies or special treatment. I only want people to remember kindness." The purchase was completed quietly, and Lakshmi left the store with the bag carefully wrapped. Outside, she felt a sense of peace. She had faced the moment with grace and dignity. She had shown that a person's worth was not in their clothes or money, but in their heart. The story of her visit spread slowly. Some people in the store whispered about it, and soon the company took steps to train their staff about respect and kindness. Lakshmi did not seek attention or praise. For her, this was a simple lesson for everyone: that behind every customer is a human being deserving of respect. That evening, back at her sister's home, Lakshmi called Sundar again. This time she told him about her second visit and how things had changed. Sundar listened quietly, proud of his mother's strength and kindness. He knew that her simple act had made a big difference. Lakshmi ended the call with her usual blessings, and Sundar smiled, thinking that his mother had once again taught him the most important lesson, not through words or power but through love and humility. Sundar Pichai was far away in California when his mother, Lakshmi, first told him about what had happened at the luxury store in Mumbai. It was a simple video call, one of the many they shared regularly despite the thousands of miles between them. Sundar's voice was warm and calm as he greeted her, asking about her health, the weather, and how she was adjusting to the city. But when Lakshmi began to explain the incident, his usual cheerful smile faded, replaced by a thoughtful seriousness. Lakshmi didn't complain or show anger. Instead, she told the story quietly, as if recounting an everyday event. She spoke of how she had walked into the store, hoping to find a special gift for her sister, and how she was treated differently because of how she looked and the clothes she wore. The salesgirl had looked down on her, assuming she was not a customer who could afford expensive items. Sundar listened carefully, his heart heavy with the weight of his mother's experience. He had always known that his mother was a strong woman, but hearing about this kind of rejection made something inside him stir. Sundar had grown up in a world where merit and talent mattered, where hard work could take you to the highest places. But this incident reminded him that the world outside still held old judgments and unfair ideas. It was a painful reminder that even his own family, known worldwide for success and influence, was not immune to discrimination. Sundar thought about the countless times his mother had sacrificed for his education and dreams. She had supported him in every way possible, teaching him the values of humility and kindness. He realized that her quiet dignity in the face of such rudeness was an example he wanted to honor. After the call ended, Sundar sat quietly in his home office. The walls were lined with books and awards, but none of those things felt important in that moment. What mattered was his mother's experience and the larger message it sent. He knew he had a responsibility, not just as a CEO of a giant company, but as a son, as a human being, to address the unfairness she had faced. He reached out to his trusted team in India, sharing the story without drama but with clear concern. Sundar asked them to find out more about the store, the staff, and the company's policies on customer service. He wanted to understand if this was a one-time mistake or a deeper problem. Sundar was not interested in creating headlines or using his power to punish anyone. Instead, he wanted a thoughtful response that could lead to change. Meanwhile, in Mumbai, Lakshmi went about her days quietly. She never asked Sundar to intervene or make a fuss. To her, this was just another lesson in patience and understanding. She focused on spending time with her sister, enjoying the simple pleasures of family life. But the story had already begun to spread in subtle ways. Some friends of the family, upon hearing the incident, spoke quietly about it in their circles. The news made people reflect on how society treats those who do not fit the rich and famous image. Sundar's team in India connected with the luxury store's corporate office. They requested a meeting with the store manager and the customer service head. During the meeting, Sundar's team calmly explained the situation and emphasized the importance of respect and equality in customer treatment. The store manager was apologetic and admitted that their staff could have handled the situation better. He promised to take immediate steps to train employees and ensure that no customer felt unwelcome, regardless of their appearance. Sundar's Approach was not about reprimanding but about creating awareness. He believed that change came from understanding, education, and kindness. He was proud of his mother, who had handled the entire situation with grace, and he wanted the business world to learn from it. Back in California, Sundar continued his busy schedule, but this experience stayed with him. It reminded him that success was not just about technology or profits. It was about people, about respect, empathy, and fairness. In private conversations with close friends and colleagues, he often mentioned the story, encouraging them to remember that behind every person was a story worth respecting. Lakshmi never sought attention or sympathy. For her, the incident was a moment in life, a moment that showed the gap between appearances and reality. She continued to live simply, teaching those around her that true dignity comes from within. When she spoke to Sundar again, she told him she was proud of him, not because of his position, but because he cared. The story of Lakshmi's rejection and Sundar's quiet response became an example for many. It showed that even in a world full of power and wealth, kindness and respect were the most valuable treasures, and it reminded everyone that the simplest acts of dignity could inspire the greatest changes. Lakshmi Pichai's life was always grounded in simplicity, but after the incident at the luxury store, things quietly began to shift, not in grand, visible ways, but in the subtle turning of events around her. The story of her rejection had traveled far beyond the walls of that store. It had touched the hearts of many, especially because of who she was, the mother of Sundar Pichai, a man who held one of the most powerful positions in the world of technology. But Lakshmi never sought attention or sympathy. For her, the real story was about respect, dignity, and kindness, lessons she had lived by all her life. Back in Mumbai, the small neighborhood where her sister lived became a place of quiet discussion. Friends, relatives, and neighbors all knew of the story, and it made many reflect on how people often judge others too quickly. Lakshmi's experience was not unique. Many people had faced similar situations where they were looked down upon because of how they dressed or where they came from. Yet, the way Lakshmi carried herself, with calmness and grace, inspired them. Lakshmi's sister often told visitors about how Lakshmi had reacted to the incident. "She didn't shout or complain," she said proudly. "She just smiled and walked away." That is true strength. It was a simple lesson in dignity, and many people started to think about how they treated others in their daily lives. Meanwhile, the luxury store where Lakshmi had been rejected took her story seriously. The management understood that their staff's behavior had caused hurt, and that it reflected badly not just on the store, but on the entire industry. They realized that in the rush to sell expensive goods and impress wealthy customers, they had forgotten the most important thing: respect for every human being. The company decided to take action. They organized training programs for all employees, focusing on customer service, sensitivity, and inclusivity. These training sessions emphasized that every customer, whether rich or poor, dressed in designer clothes or simple cotton, deserved the same respect and attention. The managers invited Lakshmi to speak at one of these sessions, hoping her words would inspire real change. Lakshmi, despite her usual shyness, agreed to attend. She saw it as an opportunity to share her experience and remind people that kindness was more important than anything else. On the day of the training, Lakshmi entered the store not as a customer but as a teacher. She wore her simple cotton sari and smiled warmly at the employees gathered there. She spoke gently, sharing the story of her visit and how she felt when she was treated differently. She didn't accuse anyone or demand apologies. Instead, she talked about the importance of seeing people as they are, beyond their clothes or wallets. She said, "When you treat someone with kindness, you make them feel valued. When you judge them by their appearance, you make them feel small. We must remember that dignity is the right of every human being." Her words had a powerful impact. Many employees confessed that they had never thought about the feelings of customers in that way. They realized how easy it was to make assumptions, and how those assumptions could hurt. The training became more than just a session. It became a turning point for the store's culture. Lakshmi's visit was reported quietly in the local newspapers, but the story spread further through word of mouth. People admired her courage and grace. She became an unexpected symbol of strength, showing that even simple acts of kindness could lead to big changes. Meanwhile, Sundar Pichai watched all this unfold from afar. He felt a deep sense of pride in his mother. He knew that her quiet strength was what had shaped him into the man he was today. Sundar often said in interviews that his mother was his greatest inspiration, not just for her support, but for the values she lived by. Sundar also used his influence to promote respect and inclusion in the corporate world. He encouraged companies, including his own, to focus on diversity and kindness. For him, the story of his mother was a reminder that no matter how high one climbed in life, humility and empathy must remain at the core. Lakshmi, however, never changed her lifestyle. She continued to live in her modest home in Chennai, wearing her simple saris and making her filter coffee every morning. She enjoyed spending time with her grandchildren, sharing stories from the past, and watching the neighborhood children play in the streets. Her story became a part of the family legacy, a reminder to always stand tall with kindness and humility. When people asked Sundar about his success, he often said, "My mother taught me that true greatness is measured not by wealth or power, but by the respect and love you give to others." Lakshmi's story also inspired many others. In schools, people began sharing her experience as a lesson in empathy. Social groups and communities discussed how important it was to treat everyone equally. The incident, which had started as a moment of rejection, had blossomed into a movement for respect and kindness. In the end, Lakshmi's experience at the luxury store was more than just a story of rejection. It was a powerful reminder of the human values that truly matter. It showed how dignity and respect can change hearts and minds, and how one simple person's strength can inspire many. As Lakshmi sat in her home one evening, sipping her coffee and looking out at the quiet street, she felt at peace. The world was still far from perfect, but small lights of kindness were shining brighter. And that was enough. Lakshmi Pichai's story did not end with just the changes at the luxury store or the quiet conversations in her neighborhood. What started as a simple moment of rejection grew into something much bigger, a lesson in humanity that touched many lives and reminded the world about respect, kindness, and the power of dignity. After the training sessions at the luxury store, Lakshmi continued to receive small but meaningful messages from people she did not know. Some were letters. Others were short notes from friends of friends who had heard about her story. They thanked her for showing strength and teaching an important lesson. Many shared their own experiences of feeling judged or rejected and said that Lakshmi's calm and graceful response gave them hope. The story also reached schools and community groups, where teachers began to use it as an example to teach children about empathy and respect. Children were encouraged to think about how they treated their classmates, friends, and strangers. The story was told in simple words, showing that no matter where you come from or what you wear, everyone deserves kindness. Lakshmi never expected any of this. For her, the real reward was seeing a change in people's hearts. She often told Sundar, "If even one person learns to be kinder because of my story, then it was worth it." Sundar, who had been following these developments closely, was moved by how his mother's experience became a beacon of hope for so many. In the corporate world, Sundar took the lessons from his mother's experience and applied them within his company. He encouraged leaders and employees alike to focus on building inclusive workplaces where everyone felt valued. Sundar believed that technology was a tool to bring people together, but that kindness was what truly connected them. One of the most important changes was how Sundar used his voice to promote diversity and fairness. In speeches and interviews, he spoke about the need to look beyond appearances and to judge people by their talents and character, not their background or clothes. He often mentioned his mother's story as a personal reminder of why this mattered so much. Meanwhile, Lakshmi's simple life continued. She found joy in small things: a walk in the park, a cup of tea with her sister, the laughter of her grandchildren. Despite the attention her story brought, she stayed humble and grounded. Her family admired her deeply, not for her connection to a famous son, but for the woman she was, a person who lived by values of kindness, patience, and respect. One day, a young woman from the luxury store reached out to Lakshmi. She was one of the employees who had been part of the training sessions. She wanted to thank Lakshmi personally for her kindness and the lessons she shared. The young woman said that meeting Lakshmi had changed how she looked at customers and even how she viewed her own life. She promised to carry those lessons forward and treat every person with the respect they deserved. This meeting was a quiet moment of healing. It showed that even the smallest acts could lead to understanding and change. Lakshmi and the young employee talked for hours about life, challenges, and the importance of empathy. It was a reminder that kindness was a bridge that could connect people from very different worlds. Lakshmi's story also inspired others in different parts of India and around the world. Community leaders and activists used it as an example to fight discrimination and promote equality. They organized workshops and talks, sharing the message that dignity belongs to everyone. As the years passed, the incident at the luxury store became a well-known story of resilience and respect. It was taught in schools, discussed in offices, and shared in families. The lesson was clear. No matter how powerful or successful a person becomes, the true measure of greatness is how you treat others. Lakshmi herself never sought the spotlight. She preferred the quiet corners of life, where love and kindness blossomed away from the noise of fame and fortune. Yet, her story had become a light for many, a gentle reminder that dignity is not something you earn with money or status, but something you give with your heart. One evening, as Lakshmi sat with Sundar and his family, she reflected on everything that had happened. She smiled softly and said, "I only wanted to buy a simple gift, but what I received was much more: hope for a kinder world." Sundar nodded, feeling grateful for his mother's wisdom. He knew that her story would continue to inspire generations. It was a story of quiet strength, a story of how one woman's grace could change the way people saw each other. In the end, Lakshmi's experience taught a powerful truth: that kindness and respect are the most valuable treasures in life. They are the gifts we give freely, and in doing so, we make the world a better place for everyone. And so, the story of Lakshmi Pichai's visit to the luxury store lives on, not just as a memory, but as a living lesson of humanity, reminding all of us to look beyond appearances, to treat others with love, and to carry dignity in our hearts always.